Hey there, I'm Lee Ullman here with some big news from the National Young Farmers Coalition. We're partnering with Heritage Radio Network on a special season of The Farm Report. It's all about what's happening with the Farm Bill and how it impacts farmers and eaters.
I am growing diversified vegetables on land that's been in our family for 150 years.
And so with the pandemic, gentrification, property values going up, we had to sell the land and we lost it.
Join us as we uncover the untold stories behind this massive piece of legislation that shapes how we grow our food, what we eat, and so much more.
The problems we have had, those are things that come from earlier Farm Bill and USDA policy, right? Like Earl Butz, get big or get out.
You know, it's my responsibility to know not only what I'm eating, but then like how that all came to be. And realize like, wow, like this piece of legislation, all this money, like it's technically something that I support as a taxpayer.
While Congress debates the next Farm Bill, this is not just an invitation to listen. It's a call to action. Be part of the conversation. Subscribe to the Farm Report on Heritage Radio Network, wherever you listen to podcasts.
This episode is brought to you by Square. If you run a restaurant or business, Square has the tools to help you stay connected to your customers, shift your business, and navigate this uniquely challenging time. Learn more at square.com/go/snacky.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Snacky Tunes. I am one half your host, Darren Bresnitz. We know that this has been a very heavy and hard week for a lot of people and a lot of our listeners. And there's been a lot of self-examination on our end as well, and a lot of conversations with colleagues who are Black and part of the restaurant industry and part of the media. And we are going to be sharing some of those conversations over the next few weeks. We just want to share our support and say that we are here for any conversation that anyone wants to have, easy or hard, about how we can help lend our support and lend more of a voice to the Black community as we look at our relationship. Heritage Radio Network has a lot of great resources at heritageradionetwork.org if you're looking for more ways to help support, and great publications like the LA Times and other newspapers around America have provided lists of Black-owned restaurants and businesses that you can support with both your voice, money, social amplification, any way that you want to get involved. And there's a lot of great places if you want to march and share your support. We know that we cannot pivot immediately, and that we want to make sure that we give fair time and fair thought to some of these conversations. And while we work on those and get ready to share those, we still have some conversations about COVID-19 and about the restaurant industries being affected by it. And today we have Naomi Pomeroy, who's the chef and owner at Beast, an expatriate, and owner of Colibri Flower Shop in Portland, and Robert J. Nelson, who's a partner at Leaf, Cabraser, Hyman, and Bernstein, talking about justice for restaurants and about lawsuits that have been filed against insurance companies and about the current state of peril that a lot of these restaurants are in because of insurance refusal to pay or take any responsibility for the COVID-19 situation. And then we have a really great performance from Kip Berman, whose new project, The Natvral, is really great, really beautiful, artistic guy's guitar, just a lot of great lyrics. So, please get in touch if you want to have a spot to have a conversation, and please enjoy Snacky Tunes on heritageradionetwork.org.
We talk about food, we talk about music, with musical dudes, finger on the pulse, Snacky Tunes.
Naomi and Robert, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedules to sit down with us on Snacky Tunes. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much.
So for anyone who hasn't been following along with the current situation with restaurants and the issues with their insurance companies, I'd love for you to do a little bit of table setting so people can understand the deep dive we're about to get into.
Naomi, maybe you should start.
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So let's see. I think my story, if I just tell the Beast story of, closing down Beast and my cocktail bar Expatriate, it's probably going to follow a similar parallel story to anybody else in the industry. The timeline's pretty similar no matter where you were at. Certain cities closed slightly earlier, but March 13th, Friday the 13th, I gathered up with what I thought was just going to be a couple of my friends in the restaurant industry here in Portland to sort of discuss, what we were going to do to shut our businesses down. We realized we saw New York starting to mandate social distancing and closures, and then we knew we'd have to follow suit, and we wanted to get ahead of the curve and kind of make a plan that everyone could stand by together. So we ended up actually, instead of just being a few friends, we ended up being about 50 to 60 concerned restaurant owners that were all discussing, the painful situation we were facing with having to shut our businesses down and not really knowing, what kind of recourse we would have. We want to take care of our staffs, we want to protect them and keep them healthy. And of course, there was very little information out there about the correct ways to do that. So most of us felt that shuttering was going to be the better way to go for that, for keeping our staff and customers safe during this crisis. And then Kate Brown, our governor, shut Oregon restaurants down about 4 or 5 days later. We filed insurance claims I think I filed my insurance claim on the 17th. It was just a couple of days after closing down, so letting them know right away that I needed to file for business interruption insurance because obviously, my business was interrupted by this, force of nature, and I was met with, okay, well, we'll report, we'll file that claim for you. And then of course, following that, I got a series of denial letters for all 3 of my businesses, actually. And that is something, I started this group chat online. We formed this Portland Independent Restaurant Alliance. And what I saw in the group chats that we were having, we created a Slack channel and everyone started, kind of talking about issues with landlords and issues with, healthcare benefits and getting, unemployment insurance claims settled with the state, which took forever too. A big, huge concern that was resonating within the community was about business interruption insurance and how every single person's, there's 300 people on that Slack channel of independent Portland businesses that are all food related that each had their claims denied. I didn't hear of a single person that was having any success with filing their claims. And some of us, have virus exclusions and some of us didn't. And it didn't seem to matter. They were blanketly being denied.
So why are they being denied? Because I'd heard that a lot of insurance policies had removed viral infections from the policy a few years ago. But since this is obviously a force majeure, or some people do even have viral coverage, what is the insurance policy's mindset for these denials?
So this is Robert. Let me chime in. It appears as though the insurers are, and there are many insurers, dozens, and throughout the United States. It appears that they've made a sort of an across-the-board decision that they were going to deny these claims, all of them, irrespective of the kind of policy that any business had. They essentially just it appears that they've made a policy across the board decision to reject these claims. As you mentioned, some of these policies do have a virus exclusion. Some of these policies have a force majeure provision. Many of them don't. And there are important arguments that business owners should be making because it appears as though there are credible arguments that should be made against these insurance carriers for these businesses to get their business interruption insurance. And of course, many of these policies do differ, but that said, all of the policies should be reviewed very, very carefully to determine whether or not it makes sense to bring suit. And we've looked at hundreds of these policies at this point, and believe that the insureds, the restaurants, have important and credible arguments to be made. And since the carriers are denying them wholesale, we're going to have these decisions made by a judge ultimately. And so that's why we have decided to file lawsuits on behalf of restaurants throughout the United States.
Is it safe to assume that insurance companies knew that this would eventually have to go to the courts, and that because it is so widespread that it could bankrupt or significantly, damage what they have in their bank, that they felt it was easier just to deny across the board and set this up to go to trial?
Yeah, so that's a hypothesis that makes sense, maybe. But the reality is that you have to honor your insurance contract.
Yes.
Yep. And these businesses have been paying their insurance premiums often for many years. And, when there finally is a business interruption that warrants their payment, that's the time where they're supposed to stand up and help you, because you as the insured have been paying your premiums for so long. So they are, making this pitch that if they have to pay, they will go bankrupt. We have no idea if that's true. They're, arguing it, but they haven't provided any evidence to suggest that. We do know that, the top insurance companies, the top 12 insurance companies, have many, many billions of dollars that they, have in reserves. Why they decided to do this, that's their business. We think it violates the insurance contracts. And so the only way to get relief at this point for the restaurants who, as I said, have been paying these premiums often for many years is, through a lawsuit and through litigation. And so that's what we've decided to do. And Naomi's case is a class action, but it's only against one insurer. Right. And that action is not necessarily going to help, all of the restaurants out there, because as I said, there are many, many different insurance companies, and everybody who has a business who, had business interruption insurance should be, looking at their policies now and tendering and, trying to decide whether or not it makes sense to bring a lawsuit. And in that calculus, I think you need to, speak to a lawyer about it, because these are important claims that restaurateurs have been paying premiums for however long. And, when the business is interrupted, which it clearly has been, and there have been significant losses, it's time for the insurance companies to pay up.
You talk about one of the biggest issues that has popped up, which is ironically or paradoxically what makes all these restaurants so amazing is that they're independent restaurants, independent businesses, but dealing with very similar problems. And while there has been some cohesion in thought, some people might be on the fence about filing or getting involved with the class action. But why is it important for restaurants to come together, for them to file individually, and to show their collective bargaining power?
Well, I think they can be powerful together. I think the class action mechanism is an important one. We have filed several class actions thus far, but as I said, there are several dozens of insurance companies out there that have provided business interruption insurance, and so a class action against farmers is not going to help you if you're insured by State Farm or Nationwide or whatever. And so, as I really emphasize, any business that has business interruption insurance should take the time to take a look at their policies, share those policies with a lawyer who knows something about insurance coverage, and should make an independent decision as to whether or not to go forward through litigation. In terms of why it makes sense, it's very, very easy for an insurance company to ignore 1, 2, 10, 15 claims, but it gets a lot more difficult for them to ignore tens of thousands of claims or more. And potentially that's what's in play here. This we hope will be an epic battle between the restaurants, and the insurance companies. And without going to the mat here, the insurance company, they're essentially forcing businesses to go to the mat. And by the mat, I mean litigation. And I just don't think there's going to be relief for anybody unless they are willing to step forward. And which, by the way, at least if you work with my law firm and many others, quite frankly, it's free to you. That is, there are no upfront costs to filing a lawsuit. How we work and how other lawyers work in this area is to do it based on contingency. And so if ultimately we're unsuccessful, that would not mean that businesses would be out the litigation costs. Those would be costs borne by the law firm. So there's really no downside, and from our perspective, a substantial upside to stepping forward right now and doing what you need to do to perfect your claim, which is to tender the claim. Say you've suffered business loss, tender the claim to the insurance company, and once you get the denial, which you inevitably will, then your claim is ready to be filed as a lawsuit. And so we would encourage everybody to do what they can to perfect their claims and then take it to the next step.
I have to say, I was going to just I wanted to explain how easy that was too, because I think right now, from a restaurant owner's perspective, there's a lot on our plates. Did we just finally figure out how to get all of our employees, through the unemployment system? Are we dealing with negotiating rents, issues with our landlords, figuring out how to pivot our business models? And I think that some people may have the fear that it's going to be too much, work for them. And I think I just want to explain what the process was for me and say that, all I needed to do, of course, I had filed those claims, and you want to make sure that if you haven't done it, you do it immediately, because you don't want to get outside the window of what your policy allows. And I know that varies policy to policy. But, all I needed to do was literally ask for, my broker to send me certified copies of my policy. And then I just forwarded them onto the legal team, and they looked. I didn't even read them. I didn't have to do all that. They're 287 pages.
Right.
They make this stuff so difficult for people to understand. So, I think that I feel that they do that kind of on purpose, to be honest. And, so don't be intimidated by that. Just I think everybody should sort of try to be confident in the fact that a good law firm will help make this easy for you. And, the other thing is that it maybe feels to some people like a losing battle, or it's not going to happen fast enough, or my restaurant's going to shut down before I'd even ever see this money. And of course, while there is some truth to the fact that it could be sort of a long and protracted battle, that doesn't mean that on an ethical level, it shouldn't be done. I mean, it should be done. It doesn't really matter how long it takes. And, that's why I spend most of my time working with the Independent Restaurant Coalition on trying to get federal funding instead, because I feel like that relief might come a little bit earlier than a lawsuit that could take a while. But I still think that, pursuing all angles is a worthy
if I could
cause.
chime in. I mean, it's our view is that you, the restaurateur, you paid for this insurance. It wasn't free. You paid premiums specifically for business interruption. And so from our perspective, all we're trying to do is get what is yours, what you paid for, what the insurance company bargained to do when it agreed to insure your business. This is not, asking for a handout. This is just asking essentially for you to get what's yours. And that's what the lawsuits are about. And unfortunately, the only way you're going to get it is through a lawsuit, at least from the insurance company. I mean, as Naomi mentioned, there are other efforts ongoing to, perhaps seek money from Congress, but there's no reason why you shouldn't be pursuing, many fronts. And the lawsuit front, is an important one. And there's, from our perspective, there's no question that this is yours. This insurance is what you paid for. And when it comes time to get paid pursuant to your insurance contract, it's not the time. And when you're, for many, they've all had to go under. It's not the time for the carriers to just say, "Oh, sorry, we're making this policy decisions that, because this is so important to our livelihoods, we're not going to pay up. Sorry." Our perspective, if we have a good claim, they should pay up. And if they need to get a bailout, and I'm not saying they do or don't, then, they're the ones who should be asking, Congress for help. But we're entitled to, we meaning the restaurants, are entitled to their, whatever they bargained for pursuant to their business interruption insurance.
Right. Then that makes a lot of sense. We're going to take a quick musical break. And then when we come back, we're going to talk about the future of how this might shake out, and then go back a little bit to how working with the federal government and the insurance companies can create maybe a path forward for restaurants. We have a song from the archives here on Snacky Tunes on heritageradionetwork.org.
Wake up, tasty trees. Your quilts are incomplete. Lovers stay in bed. Ambivalence, your head. Distance into brief. This mongrel lost his keys. Owner set me free. So the ocean cleans my feet. Please, this can't be true. Oh, don't be my undoing. Mother sure will cry when she sees our spark has died. Chapel on the hill, the freeway onto Will. Wedding clothes all gone, my Cadillac won't run. Ooh. tasty treats. Your quilts are incomplete. Mother sure will cry when she sees our spark has died. Chapel on the hill, the freeway on to Will. Wedding clothes all gone, my Cadillac won't run.
Welcome back to Snacky Tunes. We are talking about the current state of the restaurant industry and the issues with the insurance companies. And now that the suits have been filed, what does a relative timeline look like for stuff to be resolved or for stuff to move forward? Are the courts slowed down because of the pandemic? Is there a way that you can move this forward quickly? Because as we mentioned in the first act, that, you know, as this stretches on, some restaurants are going to have a tougher time to stay open. What is the timing on a resolution that you're hopeful for?
A handful of suits have been filed. Actually,
yes,
you know, maybe 15 suits have been filed, but that's only a minuscule fraction of what,
of course,
suits that should be filed. And you know, part of what we are hoping to emphasize today is that each business should be taking responsibility for, you know, protecting itself in connection with this effort. So the suits, we hope, will be filed on an ongoing basis over the next several months. And, you know, we're hoping that we have hundreds or thousands of lawsuits or more, over the next several months as people realize that they need to represent their interests. But in terms of a timeline, yes, courts are slowed as a result of the pandemic. That said, you can still file a lawsuit and pursue a lawsuit. But trials, and a trial in this case would be, a year to 2 years away. Those trials may not be impacted by COVID-19. I have trials that were set for June and July of this year. And of course, those have been kicked. And unfortunately, I lose, as a plaintiff's lawyer, I lose a lot of leverage when I lose a trial date. So COVID-19 has impacted, how quickly we can do anything. Nonetheless, we can bring lawsuits now, and we are. And as you know, and Naomi has brought a lawsuit on behalf of her restaurant. It's hard to predict how long a lawsuit will take because this is, the insurance companies have, stated that their very livelihood is dependent upon the outcome of these cases. You can expect them to, hire the top lawyers and law firms in the country who will do their darndest to extend everything and delay things and make it as difficult as possible. That's to be expected. But that said, I think we can think about having the first initial decisions from judges, within 6 months or so. And those decisions will be, some will be favorable to the business, the businesses, to the restaurants. Some will be, I'm sure, favorable to the insurance companies. And so it will go. And it may take several years ultimately, but we will have some indication, within 6 to 8 months, at least of the first lawsuits that have been filed. There probably will be what we call rulings on motions to dismiss. The insurance companies will no doubt claim that there was no damage to the property, and so their business interruption insurance doesn't apply. And we hope to get a ruling on those, on that very specific important issue fairly early on in the litigation. And as I said, there will be, and there have been, lawsuits filed throughout the United States. And as a consequence of that, there probably will be several different rulings on these issues. And it may be that there are inconsistent decisions, and we just have to sort through those. And there is an effort underway in federal court currently to have the cases be coordinated before a single federal judge. That could happen, and a hearing on that, whether or not these cases will be coordinated, will be heard in July. And that will be an interesting decision. If the cases aren't coordinated, then you'll have cases. We have a case on behalf of Naomi that's in the District of Oregon. We have cases in the Northern District of California. We have cases in the Southern District of New York. And those cases will proceed, independently. And so, but there will be a decision as to whether or not these federal cases should get coordinated. In California, there will likely be an effort to coordinate state cases filed in California. That effort is not yet underway, but I anticipate that it will happen, and it could be that the California cases will be coordinated. I get the sense that the insurance companies will oppose coordination. I think they'll see coordination as a threat, to the extent that they can keep everybody fighting, independently in their courts throughout the United States. It makes it harder for the plaintiffs to join hands, to join forces, to join, their thinking and potentially their experts. To the extent that we're coordinated before a single judge, it's easier to share and to hopefully have strength in numbers. How the litigation goes, really it's hard to know at this point. There are still a number of things that will need to be decided upon, including, as I said, this primary issue as to whether or not the cases, federal cases or California state cases, are coordinated.
Naomi, where does this currently leave you with the restaurants and businesses closed and the insurance company not paying out for your interruption of business? Do you feel that you still need to be paying into the system, or do you have any retaliation here with holding off payments till this is resolved?
I wish. I mean, no, Darren, that's a fine question, but I actually, ironically, my the same insurer that I am litigating, Berkeley North, I actually had to re-sign up with them. My policy was coming up for renewal on May 18th, and luckily they were smart enough not to decline coverage for me. But yeah, I did have to re-up with them. They raised my premium a bit. They said insurance is just more expensive. They lowered my coverage.
Wow.
There's still now there's a virus exclusion on it. So, no recourse there. I still have to be insured even though I'm not open. which is also just, I mean, it makes a little bit of sense since I'm still, renting the space that Beast is in, and trying to pivot that model. But it's really no end of the uphill battle for restaurateurs right now, given the fact that, we're state mandated closed still, which I am in support of. And, until we can open safely, I don't think we should. But I also, am saddled just like everyone else is with this whole, need to pivot the restaurant. I know that, Beast is a tiny establishment. We have had two big, long communal tables and a big, wide open kitchen. And by big, I mean really tiny, actually. But but the whole building is 800 square feet, and that includes the bathroom and the prep area in the back and everything. So we're actually having to totally shift our model, and we can't even be a sit down restaurant, I think, for an unknown period of time coming up. And I got the PPP money a couple of weeks ago, the Paycheck Protection money that was part of the CARES Act. Unfortunately, that mandated that you spend the money within 8 weeks, and you have to get back to your full level of all your old employees hired back and on the payroll, and you have to spend 75% of it on payroll. And they're talking about making some fixes to that, but currently, sitting on a couple $100,000 that I can't use for anything, coming out of pocket to pay healthcare for my staff. So, going further into like personal debt to cover my healthcare and the healthcare of my full-time employees that had coverage prior. Still waiting on my unemployment checks to come in. Haven't seen one yet. Filed like the day that everything happened. Right. So I would say that overall my case is just like everyone else's, essentially. Like, we've all got like our own individual problems. Some people have pivoted to a takeout model, but they're only doing 10 to 20% of their current their past business, and that's not sustainable, because I think obviously, as you know, and probably a lot of your listeners know, because I know you're pretty industry heavy listenership, I would imagine, but I think it's important for everyone to understand that restaurants run on thin margins, and we say we use this week's income to pay last week's bills. We're never sitting on reserves. So this whole time of being closed or at reduced capacity, and really not knowing what the next, year or 2 years even looks like for restaurant industry, we need that business interruption insurance to kick in. I mean, if I did have that, I wouldn't have had to furlough 30 employees. I could have continued paying people's benefits. I would have been able to do this pivot a lot easier. And I think that the fear, of course, hopefully I can get some help from an investor that will help me get through this period and make my pivot, because I'm coming up with this new business model. It's going to be like super cool, But if I didn't have that, or if I can't find that, I don't have any guarantees of that. And that's really what business interruption insurance should be doing for me, is taking care of me so that I can keep my staff going and pivot my model. Because we don't want to shut down. My business is 12 and a half years old. Of course. And I didn't, it was pumping along successfully and had been no signs of change in any of that category. It was busy and great. And then suddenly this, and then it's like, I have to completely shift what I've been doing really for the last 22 years of my career, building my career. And now it's like, what's next? And I could use some support.
I 100% agree. Yeah. I mean, this is no one's fault in the restaurant industry. And that is what insurance is for. And I'd like to walk it down. Let's say we go to trial and the restaurants come out successful on this side of the case. For both of you, what does a win look like? Obviously, the money gets paid out, but are there change to insurance policies? Is there a prevention of these types of carve-outs moving forward? What do you see as success at the end of the road?
So what we hope, of course, is to get our clients the recovery that they were entitled to under their policies. And if we're successful in proving business interruption, we're entitled to essentially all of, for Naomi, all of her business expenses during the time that she is, her business has been interrupted. And so it's been several months already, and it's likely to be several months more before she can reopen. And so whatever those costs are, we're hoping that we can recover them. But everybody's policy is different. There are some policies that talk about a civil authority, that is, whether or not if you were forced to close by because of a decision of the civil authority, that is, if a government forced you to close, which arguably would apply in this circumstance, they limit your recovery to several weeks or a month or 2 months, but a much shorter period of time. And so if we're successful under the civil authority provision, there'll be less monies that will go to our clients. But success is getting money to our clients, getting money pursuant to the policies that they paid premiums for years prior to this. Long term, if there are structural changes to be made, quite frankly, those aren't going. I don't believe those will be a big part of our litigation. After the SARS epidemic in 2005, 2006, whenever it was, the insurance companies did try to put in certain virus exclusions and some of their policies, and that's, we're dealing with that today. And business interruption, these are business interruption insurance. These are private agreements that you make with your insurance carrier. Now, if we wanted Congress to make, a change, it would probably have to come from Congress to say that insurance companies can no longer exclude viruses. But that would not be the result of litigation. And, Darren, it's really important to understand that there are just so many iterations of these insurance contracts, and a victory here or a victory there doesn't mean, or a defeat here or a defeat there doesn't mean that an individual restaurant is not entitled to a recovery. And so this is going to be a fight, as I suggested before, with a lot of, there'll be a number of battles, and, we'll win some and they'll likely win some. And there may not be a clear, winner at the end of the day. This will muddle along, if we are coordinated and if we have every single insurance company in front of one judge, and that judge, exercises real control over the litigation. It's possible that you could see a very substantial settlement involving a number of different insurance companies. But absent that kind of coordination, probably very difficult. And what you'll see are wins here and wins there, and losses here and losses there, without any, obvious winner or loser. Although, it could be that if we win enough early enough, they'll throw in the towel and say, okay, let's try to reach an agreement. If I were to predict, I would not predict that would happen anytime soon. I just think they have made it clear that they're in this for the long haul, and we have to be in this for the long haul.
Naomi?
Well, speaking of the long haul, I think, I pursued this angle because I think it's, part of the arsenal of what I have to protect both my, economic interest and just a moral interest, like I had mentioned before. And part of that for us, we came together. There are a lot of chef coalitions forming, in cities and across, different neighboring networks. And we formed the Independent Restaurant Coalition in mid-March, just as the CARES Act was being introduced. And we got a lot of coalition support, and a lot of those individual coalitions became part of the IRC. And I think, for us, it's like looking at all of these angles and tools that we have in our arsenal. Business interruption insurance is a big part of that, but also, looking at what can we do collectively as an industry to help, make sure that we have some protections in place for the future of the industry. So we have draft legislation. Actually, Earl Blumenauer,
Yes.
who is my awesome
awesome
congressman from Oregon. My God, he's just a real dream. It actually makes me feel. He came onto a leadership call that we had on the IRC, and I actually felt like not just proud, but also like just sorry for everyone else that doesn't have as cool of a congressman as we have. Earl is
the fact that he named his act the Restaurants Act doesn't get much cooler than that.
Yeah. So he supports this idea of stabilizing the restaurant industry with a $120 billion stabilization fund, and he's getting bipartisan support. Because, the fortunate thing for us in our battle is that, eating at a restaurant is a bipartisan issue. I mean, everyone needs to eat dinner. So we have some stuff going for us. And the fact that, restaurants are the second largest, private sector employer in the nation, and so many businesses and industries feed off of, being, involved with the restaurant industry, from winemakers to ranchers to truck drivers and you name it. So I think that we have a long way to go, but we are making some really incredible progress for a collective, that we are only a coalition that's 8 weeks old now. We've gotten a lot of traction on the Hill, and we're looking for, long-term solutions. So when you say stuff like, are we going to pursue business interruption, insurance, like the idea of introducing that to Congress and making sure that maybe, one of our asks going forward in the future could be don't allow, insurance companies to do this kind of dirty work. It's not cool what's happening. I think we all can agree on that. We all paid for a service we thought we were going to get if something like this happened. And we all got blindsided when we were blanketly denied. So, but we're looking for all kinds of different angles and solutions, and, tax incentives for how many people we employ. Going forward in the future, we need a lot more help. And so focusing right now on our stabilization fund, and then doing our individual work of filing our claims and then reinventing our businesses. I mean, it's funny because chefs are used to working really long hours. I mean, where we work like always 12 to 16 hours a day, most of us. And I think, if you take a bunch of chefs out of that working environment and then give them tasks like call your Congress people, I tell you what, man, we are getting some traction because there are hundreds and thousands really of chefs that are mobilizing around the country to say, we got to save this industry. Not just because it's like a fun, cool industry, which it is, but because it really props up the economy. I mean, we contributed 4% of the GDP and, over $1 trillion to the economy. So it's really, it's an integral part of the solution of getting America back to work.
Yes, and not to mention the millions of workers that work at restaurants, and then all the workers that work in tandem through the food system and things like that. I want to thank both of you for taking time out of your day. If people want to follow along, or more importantly, if people who are listening want to file or get involved, where can they go? How can they learn more information about what you both are taking up?
So my name is Robert Nelson, as I mentioned, and I work for a law firm called Leif Cabraser, Hyman and Bernstein, and Leif is spelled L-I-E-F-F. And I'm at rnelson@lchb.com, and I have been spending a tremendous amount of time since this epidemic began, trying to work with restaurants and bringing lawsuits. And that's what we're doing. And so if you've got business interruption insurance and are interested in going further and seeing if we can help you and pursue an action, we'd be delighted to to take a look at your policies. And we're also willing to tender the policy if necessary, if that hasn't been done by the time you call us. Anyway, rnelson@lchb.com if you want to talk further. I've spent 30 years suing insurance companies and other industries, the tobacco industry, the oil industry, specialize in suing industries, which is probably the reason I have no hair on my head. But also, you really do want to get a lawyer who's willing to fight and who knows how to go up against, very large, corporate law firms who, which will be defending these large insurance companies. So, but pursue your rights, as Naomi said. I mean, this is, these policies, you paid for them and you're entitled to the benefits of what you paid for. And that's, very simply the message of our cause here. And that's not to take away from the fantastic possibilities through legislation or whatever else. This is just, this is one part of it. And this is, we believe, an important part because it's really just getting for people what they've paid for, very simply. And, we're, as I had mentioned before, I think we're going to win some and we're going to lose some. And we hope we win more than we lose. And we hope, we hope it's your case that we win anyway, but
me too. And for my stuff, in addition to, I chose Leif Cabraser because they have, hundreds and hundreds of millions of man hours on suing big, nasty corporations, but also, on a personal level for anybody that is in the industry, or just likes the industry and wants to help us, going to our website at saverestaurants.com, and checking it out, reposting, our social media posts, and following along as we start to ask for people to call their congresspeople and their representatives and just say they support this stabilization fund that we're putting out there, because it really does a lot more than just, save your favorite neighborhood restaurant. It does all of the work that you said earlier, Darren, and giving other businesses a chance that are connected to restaurants to survive and thrive through this crisis as well.
Awesome. Well, I cannot thank you two enough for taking the time and also taking up the mantle for this fight. It's a really, really important one. We have another song from the archives and then a live performance from the Natvral here on Stacky Tunes on heritageradionetwork.org.
Yo, yeah, got up in the morning, yo, had to brush my teeth and shit, yo, had to do a lot of shit, know what I'm saying? That's how we do this. Yo, this ain't LA, yo, some people think New York is just like LA, but they wrong and shit, because the topography is totally different, the geography, the weather systems, the microclimates are totally different. There's a huge influx of different types of people and shit, know what I'm saying? So anybody who thinks that LA is exactly like New York, or New York's exactly like LA, those motherfuckers are just wrong and shit, know what I'm saying? And that's a huge thing. They're talking about it on CNN and shit. Deal with this shit, know what I'm saying? Yo. New York City, New York City. Yo, I didn't grow up in New York, but I watched Taxi a lot, and that basically gave me everything I need to know about New York and shit. That melancholy theme song with that taxi going over that bridge, yo, that's everything, man. That's New York, you know what I'm saying? Yo, New York is a confluence of different events. Most people can never even claim that they even lived here and shit, but that's okay. That's just the nature of New York. You think the Native Americans think that the locals are local? Think again, motherfucker. Yo. 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 Fischl all ulflassen achterslöv. Mitromak flext ali kumstender alikan. Ukra. Fistan ukra teslöv steklefan. Fre. Topotapekatopokam brantam setlava. Ustuklem banden. Hej go. Tack så mycket. Frukomnit. Chalatsinu. Frakisa. Yeah. Man säger kwana fin the fan fest. Och de bracken då lyssnar de obrigato motherfucker. Man and Jimmy Carville's in New York City. What you gonna do when they call your names? Gonna do some stuff like you're in New York City. New York, 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 New York. Yeah, come on. You feel that? Yo, get it. Come on. Brooklyn, Brooklyn, New York, New York City, City, 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 Brook, 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 Brooklyn, 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 Brooklyn. There's more to New York City than Brooklyn. I know that and stuff, but if you say Brooklyn, it automatically unifies people in a very strange way. Even if they live in Queens and stuff, or maybe the East Village, or maybe the West Village, there's no point in going anywhere above 14th Street. Yo, getting across the city is really tough, but if you live in the kind of area that has a cross-town line, you're really lucky and shit. Know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to go up there, but they have to because business is up there and shit. Know what I'm saying? Yo, when my Soho's Soho's really weird because I don't know how to navigate. Soho hangers. Lots of thin, tall people walking around. Apple stores, what the fuck they doing, them clowns? Gotta get some pistachios at a market that's overpriced and shit. Come on, let's do this. Yo, you ever been to that one place? No, I never been to that one place. Do you know about that other place? I don't know about that other place. Do you know that new place? I don't know about the new place. Did you hear about the place that's about to open? Yeah. Did you hear about the place that's gonna close? Yeah. Did you hear about that one place? It doesn't matter. It's a bunch of old dogs. Brooklyn, Brooklyn, New York, New York City, City, 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 Brooklyn, 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 Brooklyn.
This episode is brought to you by Square. We all know that this is an incredibly challenging time for our friends running restaurants and small food businesses. With social distancing in place, people are staying home and eating in, and restaurants have had to pivot to pickup and delivery only. HRN would usually be recording our podcast from our studio inside Roberta's. But since they've had to close their dining room, they've ramped up their frozen pizza production, set up a wine and grocery shop, and seen their delivery orders skyrocket. Like Roberta's, many restaurants have been changing offerings day by day as they figure out how to best serve their customers. If you run a restaurant or small business, Square has the tools to help you adapt. One of these tools is the Square online store. It lets you set up a free online ordering page with curbside pickup and local delivery so you can keep customers safe. You can deliver orders yourself or integrate with delivery partners. Its Order Hub lets you manage all your incoming orders in one place, no matter which delivery partners you choose to use. Square has all the tools to help you stay connected to customers no matter where they are. See everything that's available by visiting square.com/go/snacky.
Kip, welcome to Snacky Tunes. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and chat with us and share some songs with us. We really appreciate it.
Oh, Darren, thanks so much for having me. I'm psyched to be here.
So we ran in similar circles back in the day, in parallel circles in Brooklyn, which we both called home for many, many years. And now I'm out in LA, but you're out in Princeton, New Jersey. You had a family, you have this new project, the Natvral. But how has being out of the city shifted your creative process or changed the way that you look at writing songs? When I can only speak from personal experience, Brooklyn was such an inspiration to me for so many years of creating things.
That's a really good question. I'm not sure if like the change of where I'm living has affected what I'm writing, or like the change in my lifestyle being a parent has affected it. But for whatever reason, I wrote the last song for my old band probably around 2015. My daughter was born in 2016, and I moved to Princeton, New Jersey, which is, for those that don't know, it's just a small little college town in New Jersey. It's pretty. You can walk everywhere. It's pretty nice.
It's really nice.
So I'm not sure if I don't know if I'm writing songs about trees and sidewalks or whatever. I'm not sure if it's had like a real market effect in terms of what's inspiring me, but I think my lifestyle, I was just home so much with my daughter when she was born. My wife works full time, and I was just, home for the first year and a half of her life, just hanging out with her and just kind of playing guitar by myself, to her or to myself, and so I think the modes of like how I was thinking about writing like music just changed so much from not being a group project so much where you go to a band practice space and you rock out for however many hours to like just kind of making music on an instrument by yourself, like got away from people. And I think maybe that social isolation, though, I mean, I guess that's a loaded word now, might have had some impact on how I was writing. I think about my old band, and I think about I was always trying to impress the other people in the band with like the music I was making. I was like, oh, sure. I really hope, Peggy likes this song, or Kurt's going to like this song, or whatever. But for this, I was just kind of pleasing myself for worse or better. I think that's probably the bigger impact on how I was creating.
I mean, that's, a whole career and a successful band being in pains of being pure at heart. I have to imagine that some of the success and some of the things that you saw and did with the band still has an influence on you today, even if you're doing a solo project now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that experience is really special. Like, I don't think you can really measure it adequately. Like the rare opportunity where you start a band with your friends and you write some songs, and then more than like 12 people care. Like I think up to 18 people cared, and that was like pretty for indie pop. That was like pretty good. And to be able to travel and play music and do all that stuff, like I was in bands for a long time before Pains, and literally like nothing I ever did even like registered like above like the zip code that we were like living in, and like playing to like some friends at a bar or whatever, a ping pong room or whatever. So Pains was such a different experience, and the chance to make music that people seem to care about that weren't like my mom is pretty rare for anyone making music, and it's something I appreciated, and I probably appreciated it even too much, where I was like so like self-conscious that we had to like take it seriously in some way, where I was like, dude, this doesn't happen ever, so we have to be like really hardworking, and like maybe I like sort of missed the point that it should be also like fun and kind of relaxed. Like I think I was like always like, you know what I'm saying? It's like I kind of I might have been a little too like, guys, you don't realize this never happened, so we have to really like try our best all the time, or something like that. That's pretty like, that was sort of like maybe I went too much in that direction.
Yeah, but I think part of success, or a good chunk of success, is that hard work and that grind that some people don't put in, and that can separate your band being a successful band, or at least being a part of that, versus writing some really amazing songs and then not working at the other side of being a band.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely am not disparaging that working at what you love to do is really important. But I don't think working hard at something makes it better all the time. And I think there's some
Fair.
people that get hung up on the idea that they're working so hard at something and they're expecting some reward and they keep on hitting the magic tree, as it were, and just expecting, golden apples to come down. And I think you can get caught up in a sort of worshiping a sort of false god if you think like, oh, I just need to work hard so that I succeed. You're kind of missing the point that these are songs. They should last about 3 minutes, and probably maybe you should spend maybe 5 minutes thinking about how to write them beforehand, and then hopefully it's like there's nothing worse than someone that works so hard at something and then listening to it feels like a labor. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it's like a little
No,
bit
of
like
course.
it's like, okay, like it's rock and roll. It should be fun. It should be light at times. And I think with this new project, I'm really trying to just make things in the moment and not fixate on someone else's idea of what the right way or the better way of doing things is. Just kind of make things in my own way, I hope. And I hope people can feel that there's a human being at the other end of the MP3.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the new project, which is relatively new, but didn't get started this week. You've been doing the Natvral for a couple of years now. And one of the best things I read about it, because it actually made me pause, was that it was neither a solo project nor side project, which I've never heard a group described that way. Can you explain? I mean, you read so much stuff and you read so many PR or music releases or interviews, and for anything to give you pause to go like, okay, I got to ask him. So what does that mean? What does that mean to you?
I think that might have been like an obnoxious way of like phrasing it. Like when you put it back to me, I was like, well, it's just one person, but it is neither solo or side. No, I think that was actually when I started out, I was having a hard time because I didn't really want to leave behind my old group.
Sure.
And I think I was getting into like what I was saying before of maybe taking it too seriously, where I was like, I wanted to do some new music, but I didn't want it to be perceived as some like offshoot of what I was doing before. It was so different. And it came from a perspective of what I was feeling at that time that was wholly my life, and still is. And yet at the other end, I had this other project that, I didn't want to be disrespectful to it. I wasn't relating to it myself, but there was people that cared about it, and I didn't want to be like, oh, this isn't me, but it wasn't me anymore. And I think after maybe that got written, that sort of strange phrasing, I made the decision to just be like, listen, the old band is done. Like it took a little while to get there, but this is the music that I'm making now, and I believe in that it is my music, but I believe it really, something about collaborating with other people still makes it different than if it was just me. And I know that's kind of hard to explain, but when I made this record, I couldn't have done it. And the record's not out yet because of, the world the way it is right now. But when I made this record that I'm working on or worked on, it's done. It was really, I wrote the songs, but the playing of Brian and Jacob, who played drums and bass respectively, and Kyle, who played keyboards on it, it just changed the dynamic of it so much, and it really brought different feelings to it and a different excitement to it. So, I mean, I guess it is a solo project, but I just didn't want to diminish that other people were involved. And even besides just playing it, like the guy that recorded it, the first EP did, and he recorded the record too, this guy, Andy Savers, he gave me so much inspiration. And
of course,
I'd been so used to like recording records with like my old band where it's like, we're going to play to the metronome. We're going to do another take of this and try to get everything to sound just right and precise. And he like realized that the things that maybe I didn't even understand about myself was that I just like to, he just basically gave me a guitar and a microphone and he said, play the song and sing it. And I was like, what? Like, don't we have to like, like first do this rough track that I then play to? And he was just like, no, just, it's a song. You like writing songs and you like playing songs. So just here's a microphone and here's a guitar. And that's how we made that first EP. It was like an afternoon. Like went over to his little studio and like, he handed me a guitar and a microphone and we sang some songs and then we went to the pub and had some beers and that was it. And it was such a liberating way of creating, and it just was so different than what I'd experienced before. And not saying the way before was wrong. It just, lots of people create in different ways. It all of a sudden started to make sense again. And the music was really connecting with me and my life and not other people's expectations or what I even perceived other people's expectations to be. But I apologize for the really long-winded phrasing of what the band or the project or whatever it is. I always think project's a bad term. It sounds like I'm like at the science fair or something like that. I'm like, it's like, this is my new project. I'm like, I don't know, man. I got like barely passing grades in every laboratory kind of environment I've been in. So,
I mean, look, when you're talking about groups and bands, the thesaurus runs a little dry after you use the same sort of phrases again and again. Let's hear a song. What are you going to play for us first?
All right. So the first song is a song I wrote called "Why Don't You Come Out Anymore," and it's weirdly a prescient title at the moment.
Yeah, it is very appropriate, and I think we know the answer of why people are not coming out anymore, at least in this moment, at least for this moment. All right, well, here we go. We got The Natvral live here on Snacky Tunes on heritageradionetwork.org.
night. Put a 20 in the jukebox just to hear a silent song. Never meant to make you something you never wish to be. I just like your morning greyhounds and a glimpse of your disease. I tell you I'm no better and you've always known it true. So I never send these letters, I just place myself to you. So why do I still sit in the attic of my head? Think I smell the ashes still that I spilled in your deathbed, and is that why you don't come out? Is that why you don't come out? Is that why you don't come out anymore?
Well, that was fantastic. A man, a guitar, a microphone. I mean, it makes a lot of sense. You know, it definitely has a different feel, and you can feel a different sort of creative process that goes into the type of music you're making right now. But how have you shifted that? You know, obviously that's been around for 2 years. Or a couple of years. It's on the tail end of your last band. How has the creative process evolved? It's because it sounds like you've allowed yourself a little bit more freedom as the project stretched out.
You know, I think that's a good question. You know, I don't think it's evolved. Maybe it's like devolved. You know, it's like I think this idea that like there's progress to be made and we're always making things better. I kind of think I'm going back more to a less self-conscious kind of way of making music. And I know that sounds like ridiculous when you're like actually talking about how not self-conscious you are, because that's a form of being self-conscious. But I really think that even though you're saying this album took 2 years to make, it really took like a couple days. And I think that's part of the fun is that I have limitations in terms of how much time I had, especially like, you know, with each time I sort of started this thing, my daughter like was finally old enough and I was kind of about to be able to travel a little bit and like sort of focus on music again. And then I was about to have another child, so I had to put everything on hold again. So just finding a couple days here or there to like make the record was, I mean, I know it's been a while, but it really was almost like a handful of days over a handful of years to put it together. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think that's cool. Like, I really think like you have to make, it's like part of my life. Like, you know, it's like the music is part of my life, and finding time to make the music is part of what my life is. It's like, I don't want to leave my kids like for long periods of time when they're super young. I don't want to put that pressure on my partner. And like,
no.
So right now it's like, I needed to just like do things really fast. And it was cool that doing things that way had a result that was, I think turned out really in a way that made me happy. So I think, yeah, like the creative process is like making the best out of what your life is. And that sort of is a way of channeling what your life is into the music.
Yeah. I mean, look, as one dad to another, we do all of our recordings now when my daughter naps in the middle of the day. And part of that adjustment is because you want to spend as much time with your kid as possible, but you also still want to find time to create. And it just forces you to look at what you're going to make and how you're going to do it in a completely different light than, say, early to mid 20s running around Brooklyn with no family. And it's just a different type of approach.
Well, in a weird way, though, it's like, I mean, I used to live in Portland, Oregon before I moved to Brooklyn. And and I had like, Portland was so cheap then. It was like you could work like 10 hours a week at a call center, charging people's prepaid calling cards and stuff. And then you could still have like 6 hours to jam in a house you rented for like $150 a month or something, you know. It's like, it was that. There was like endless time, but I don't think it made the music we were making any better to have so much time to do it. And when I came to New York, everyone, not just me, like everyone in my group like was working really hard and had like very little time to like get together and play music. And so those early practices were just like super, they had to be really focused. And I think it kind of made, I'm not saying life should be harder just to make good art. That seems like a kind of false idea. I'd rather just like have 6 hours a day to jam in the basement. But
Yeah.
but I think there was something about having such limited time, even with pains, to like write and record music that made us like kind of, you know, like, all right, we're gonna like figure out how this song goes and not just, you know, eat
Stick
gummy
around.
bears or whatever, you know, the whole time. So and so even now I think that's like the reality of my life, but it's, I don't want to say everything's a blessing. Like it's, but like it really, the limitation does like create something good, even if sometimes it's annoying to have limitations, you know?
Yes. I mean, you can hear that in the EP because, and if I read this correctly, you recorded everything, or everything's one take, which you sort of alluded to in the first part of our conversation. Um, what made you want to just put out one take, or did you record multiple takes and pick the best one? What was the process of recording that? Because it sounds like it's now fitting into your lifestyle of how you did it, which was like, we're going to sit down, we're going to knock it out. It's going to be very natural. It's going to be very me, very raw, but it's still going to be something really special.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I'm always skeptical when bands say everything was done in one take. You know, it's like, everyone's like, yeah, it's just like one take. I'm like, come on,
We just nailed it out, guys.
you just like, it's like you didn't like just forget the words on the second verse one time and say like, let's just start over again. The first EP wasn't one take, but it was an afternoon. It was like an afternoon of making music. So like,
that's fine. That's
so I
close
mean,
enough.
I don't want to mythologize myself or anything like that. Like, but I went over to my buddy's house. We had an afternoon, and like we made 4 songs, and that was cool. And then we went to the pub, and then it was like yeah. I mean, that's the kind of idea of it, is to like create in the moment and not obsess over perfection. And like, not saying I'm not trying to do the best I can still. Like, there's kind of like, yeah, we did this album pretty much live, but the people that played on it, like I'm no rocket scientist at playing the guitar or whatever, but like the guys I play with and Sarah, who did some backing vocals on it, it was like they're really good at music. So I think it's kind of like a good balance between like sort of my sort of I really believe in a sort of amateur kind of style of creating things. Like you don't have to be a trained person to make something, but it's also kind of cool when you get to play with people who are pretty good. Like, you know, it's like, it's kind of nice when like I'm the worst one in the room, you know. I don't know how to say that the right way, but like there's a place for like musical ability in the world too. Like I don't want to denigrate that, because people, a lot of those old records that people like from, you know, the 60s or whatever, it's like, yeah, it's like Dylan did his thing, but he was also like being backed by some like really awesome people like playing behind him, like and transforming sort of like his ideas into something.
I mean, the legendary Wrecking Crew, you know, who turned so many songs into just masterpieces, was essentially the sounds of that era.
Yeah, and it's like, I think there was like a strange, like rock and roll wasn't invented yet. So you had people that weren't rock musicians sort of playing along to a new kind of music and kind of inventing it as they go along. But they had like training in all sorts of different styles and backgrounds. It's like it's an interesting historical time. And I'm not trying to recreate that time or do anything like that's purposefully like, we got to do it like they did it back then. I think that outlook is like pretty boring, or not even boring, just it's like, what do you get then? You like really just get like something that already existed and then sort of like probably not as good a version of it. So I don't know if like being like old, for whatever reason I got my daughter to start calling me old dad. She calls me old dad. Like she's like, hey old dad. I'm like, what's up? But yeah, maybe being old dad like makes me feel like pretty happy just to make things that I want to make them, and hope that people see something good in that. And if they don't, I still like making songs and playing them.
Yeah. Old Dad's also a great name for another project or band. if
Yeah,
you will.
I mean, it's like I don't have like vanity plates on my station wagon yet, so I'm not.
Oh.
But I'm saying if I did, maybe like a 0 LD.
Oh, that'd be
Yeah,
great.
maybe like an E at the end of old, like it's like a sort of
Oh yeah,
archaic.
You pull up to Hoagie Haven and the old dad mobile, and
Wait,
there
you
you
know
go.
about Hoagie Haven?
Dude, I mean, my dad worked and lived out of Princeton for years, and we grew up in Philadelphia. I know the Princeton Record Exchange. I know Princeton pretty well.
Oh my goodness! Well, I grew up outside of Philadelphia too. My mom we moved all over. I was like in a bunch of places, but yeah, I remember like that's so crazy.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Princeton Record Exchange is awesome. Like everyone, I mean, I don't want to disparage anything, but like all my friends when I moved to Princeton were like, "Oh man, sorry, you have to leave New York," or had this attitude that something
No.
bad was happening to me. I'm like, Princeton's nice. Like every street when I like go for a walk with my daughter or my son is like a public park. You know,
I
it
know.
feels like even like a normal street feels like really nice for children. And there's the Princeton Record Exchange is amazing. Like people from New York come down to there, people from Philly go there. WPRB is an awesome college radio station in Princeton.
Yeah.
Like,
and it's a gorgeous campus.
And it's a nice place, and there's like you can walk everywhere. It's like not that I mean it's different than New York, but it's also cosmopolitan because like people are all here from all over the world. So it's not like I think maybe people hear New Jersey and they think, oh, it's like some suburban strip mall kind of thing. Like whatever, that's fine too. But it's actually like I you know, the people I know here are from like all over, and it's cool. And there's a good record store, and hopefully everything will get back to what made it so nice before. And you can just walk everywhere, and you know all that good stuff.
I mean, look, if you got a good record store, you can get a good sandwich. I mean, that's check and check. All right, let's hear another song. What do you got for us next?
All right, so the next song's a song called New Moon.
Sweet. Okay, well, here we go. The Natvral here on Snacky Tunes on heritageradionetwork.org.
Like the light of the new moon, I only get a darker view, and I look for you, and you go on scene. Tied down in his living room, your dream is sinking and the dunes. Kick off your sandy shoes and cuff your jeans. Did you ever think you'd see the day when you turned 33 and wanted to be anywhere but here? I don't mean to hold you still half naked with a road to build to wake up here alone with me right there. Oh, it's time to say what's left of your life. You'll survive another night, then another night. Oh, it's time to say not a word of anything. We did, our secrets won't be his. You won't be mine. You don't need to be so down. You look nice in your mother's gown. Well, wishes come together around your statue. I don't mean to eulogize or look for doubt behind your eyes. Don't even want to say goodbye, but I got to. Oh, it's time to say what's left of your life. You'll survive another night, then another night. Oh, it's time to say not a word of anything. We did, our secrets won't be his, and you won't be mine. and it'll be alright. Just not tonight.
Another awesome tune. And thank you for sharing with us. And you've actually been sharing a lot of music during the pandemic, shelter at home, working out of our houses nonstop. You've been doing a couple things. The first one I want to talk about is your cover series, because it's been pretty enjoyable to not only hear you play some covers, but then to see what songs you pick. Can you tell us a little bit about this series and how you pick the songs that you want to play?
Yeah, well, that's nice that you like it. You know, when this all started and we're kind of stuck in our house, and we still are stuck in our house, I guess. It was so nice to have just something to look forward to doing each night. You know, after my kids went to bed, and if I wasn't too tired, I would just come down to the basement and sort of like pick a song that I liked or had some kind of significance to me in some way, and just try to play it. I think there's something. I think there's something cool about doing covers. There's like there's sort of like a bad version of doing covers where people sort of see it. No, not bad, like they're bad versions, but people use it as like an opportunity to like piggyback on someone else's
Sure.
popularity. Like they're like, oh, so and so is famous. If I cover their song, or if it's like an ironic thing where it's like I'm just like a middle-aged dad, but if I like cover like this cool like 15-year-old's music, like people will. I don't like that sort of thing. I'm sure.
So
There's
we're not gonna hear like old dad doing TikTok songs, are we?
No, but I mean, but there's stuff that I like genuinely, like I did a cover of like Lord, like I mean, that song Liability. It's like I guess I'm like kind of like talking out of both sides of my mouth. Like I don't,
Sure.
Maybe I see the worst intentions in people when it's like there was that dude that did like the Taylor Swift cover album, but it just felt like so self-serving and like kind of.
I mean, look, if you lived through the '90s, you saw a lot of bands who had careers off of covering someone else's song.
Yeah, and but that is also like I mean, it can be a really cool thing too. Like Fairport Convention did a bunch of like they did like tons of covers, but it was like they like brought something really of themselves to it. Even like kind of.
I mean, look, Built to Spill, Doug Marsh is one of my heroes, and part of why I love seeing them play live is what covers are they going to take and make their own.
Yeah, like or like when Dinosaur Jr. covers The Cure, it was cool. It was like,
oh yeah,
it wasn't
That's
just like,
cover.
oh, we're gonna play this popular song so we can be popular. It was like, let's take this music that like if you have a genuine connection to, then you can kind of interpret it as you will. And there was, I even almost honestly, I was doing this series of covers, and I was like, I got stuck because there was a song I was about to do, and then I was like, do I really love it, or is it just kind of, is it kind of like, I don't know how to say it. It's like. It felt a little bit too much of that category of
I got it. You're like, am I doing this because I love it, or am I doing it because I think people look at it and be like, oh, that's cool,
or it's like that's unexpected. But I was just kind of like, you know what, I don't want to like, go to bat. Like usually the stuff I cover, I want to be able to go to bat for it. And like if someone's like, do you really like Lord's second album? I'm like, I really do. Or if someone's like, do you like Tori Amos? I genuinely like 100% love Tori, but like I don't know. I think like I think
I know.
I don't want to say the band's name because it's like they're like good and I respect what they do, but it was like sort of felt like almost a little farcical. But yeah, so but then I kind of got sidetracked by that whole experience, and then I started questioning everything and why was I doing what I was doing? But like honestly, I was just I never had played video games for like a really long time, like maybe 10 years, 15 years or whatever. I don't know. But I got this Nintendo Switch and I started playing Skyrim at night, this game where you're sort of like, you walk around in this ancient world and you fight dragons. And so like, I somehow decided to play Skyrim instead of making music in my basement. And that was like a bad decision. And I need to go back to making music.
Look, I think we're going to be at home for a long haul. And, part of having that creative itch that you need to scratch is that if you scratch it into submission, then it doesn't itch anymore. And
I don't want to interrupt you, but like I think that's what I'm trying to get at. It's like all these people that like want to have a music career or like I always hear bands are talking about, I treat my music like my job, and I'm like, the whole point of music is to not have a job, it's like it's like the whole point is doing something that doesn't feel like you're working. It doesn't feel like, I mean, work as hard on it as you want, and that's cool, and it's satisfying for me to work on my music, but it never should feel like work. And the whole language about it, like the sense of like, if I work very hard on my music, I deserve to make this much income per year as a result. And if that doesn't happen, then there's something wrong with society. It's like, I don't know, man. Just I think you need to have joy in what you're doing, and if you make something with joy in your heart, that's its own reward.
Yeah, I mean, if you can create something that you love, and then other people at least like it or respect it, that is a rarefied thing. It's a really just, and as you get older, that becomes more and more true as well. And be like, wow, I made something out of nothing, and then other people liked it, and that's cool in its own.
The thing is, I think about a lot is that my mom always loved my old band. She'd always be like, really liked it. But I think she liked it because it was me, and it's like, moms aren't really good. Like, you usually your mom's going to like what you're doing, hopefully.
Hopefully.
I actually feel like the music I'm making now, my mom would like it, even if it wasn't me, and so that feels kind of good, being like, my mom likes cool stuff. Like, she likes, Leonard Cohen, and like she kind of likes that sort of outlaw country, or like Keith Richards is sort of her like ideal guy. But like, yeah, I kind of think it's like, it's cool to be making something that, even if like, I mean, I just don't, it's like not fair to say I don't care, but like, because all bands are like, we don't care what other people think. But I just want to be as good as people thought I was, but I wasn't before. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think I got a disproportionate amount of people thinking I think I got too much praise for stuff I didn't deserve, maybe in the past. And I would be happy if I do something deserving that no one cares about, but I would feel like I'd balanced out the balance of the universe if I was like, did something like actually decent, whether anyone listens to it or not,
I mean, at some point, everyone wants to be that sort of really cool project that no one discovers until much later, and someone was like, man, that was really awesome. That was really cool what they did.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's like, there's still like some ego attached to that, and like, oh, I'm going to be an undiscovered gem. Like, that's ridiculous. I mean, I always used to say it's better to be overrated than like underrated. It's just like it's a nicer way to go through life, I suppose. But like, at the same time, I would like to get my musical karma back in line, probably, and not like I don't know, like with my old band, like, people would be like, write nice things about us, and we could like barely play the G chord, and I was like, now I definitely know how to play the G chord, and sometimes even the C and the D. So I'm sort of doing my penance.
I hear you. And during this time, you're also doing live concerts. I know you played earlier this week, but how has been performing live over the internet been for you?
It's interesting. I really wanted this band or project or musical creation to be one of intimacy. Sure. I wanted to make something that could go anywhere and play anywhere and not say no to anyone. If someone's like, do you want to play this show in my living room? Or whatever, with a full band, there's always this, wait, is the PA this size, or do we have enough amps, or like whatever? There's all these considerations to be able to say yes to things, and it was limiting what we were able to do, and it felt kind of stultifying. And I wanted to do music where literally all I had to do was show up and be myself and play guitar and sing a song, and that could happen in any place and any time, just about. So I was really excited for this new music I was making to be able to, share it with people, and wherever it was and whatever context it was. Doing it over the internet, I mean, it's not the same as that, but I like the ability that it's not the same that I don't have that connection with people and be able to stand in front of them and play music. I think that changes something about how you relate to the music, but I do like the idea that I don't have to make apologies for like, oh, I'm sorry, it's just me, it's not the band, or it's just, they can see I'm able to make music the way I was going to make music anyway, and it's not that different from doing it in my basement as opposed to doing it in their basement.
Got it. Well, listen, I want to make sure we have enough time for one more song, but if people want to check out the EP or watch some of the covers or check out your next live concert or see when the next album's coming out, essentially follow along with all your endeavors, where can they go? What's the best place to follow along with you?
Oh, like I'm on the internet, so it's the spelling. I mean, if you're interested, the spelling is a little weird. It's like Robert Redford probably, for some reason, like got to the correct spelling first.
Yeah,
but
great movie.
I love it. Yeah. It's awesome. I mean, the book's a bummer, but like the movie's so good that I'd rather just believe in the movie.
Yeah.
And it's all about redemption, right? It's about someone who was like sort of maybe blessed with too many gifts too soon and made some bad choices, but then sort of got one last chance as an old dad to hit one out of the park. So the Natvral, it's THE, and then I think natural is spelled NATVRAL. I like the idea of spelling the word natural in an unnatural way. I thought that was kind of, because if you spell with a U, you're kind of like, hey man, we just got some wooden instruments and we're going out there into the country and just like doing it for real because that's the realest thing that could ever real. Like I like the idea of being like, I'm not that real.
All right, so what's the last song you're gonna play for us?
It's called Sun Blisters. It's about doing bad things and not feeling so bad about it.
I think it's just called Getting Older. Yeah, maybe. Or maybe staying younger. I don't know. All right, well, listen, I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you to Leah for setting this up. Thank you to everyone at Heritage. Here we go. One last song for the Natvral here on Snacky Tunes on heritageradionetwork.org.
She's done better and I know it's better, but I miss the way she was. I know what you want from me, some penitence, and I do agree. What we did in vanity, but she's not gonna come. If you wanna be productive, that's fine. Just wanna hold a sister's filthy hand in mine. Get loose around 10 a.m. No one tells you how the sun feels then when there's nothing keeping it off you. There's nothing keeping us pan. All those years of golden rush you did unto others, but they wouldn't do. Caught the shell of a 22, but that won't break the skin. If you wanna live so righteous, that's fine. Just wanna hold a sister's filthy hand in mine. One more time. I know how helpless feels when the wax and screw it once a real half burnt and never really held. They say I better go. In the end, maybe I was wrong, laughing where all the tears belong. But love to you is just a pretty song, and I'm a sour note. talk about food, we talk about music with musical dudes. Finger on the pulse, snacky tunes.
This program is powered by Simplecast.
Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. For our freshest content and to hear about exclusive events, subscribe to our newsletter. Enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at heritage_radio. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization driving conversations to make the world a better, fairer, more delicious place. And we couldn't do it without support from listeners like you. Want to be a part of the food world's most innovative community? Rate the shows you like, tell your friends, and please join our community by becoming a member. Just click on the beating heart at the top right of our homepage. Thanks for listening.